Okay, so I'm gonna do 88 Biden versus Bush. George Bush doesn't have his side completed, but there are a lot of candidates. 5 for vice president. Joe Biden has his side completed. Feinstein and Jeppert do the best, so I'm gonna pick Jeppert. The first one, June 1987. At the Wilmington train station, you've decided to announce your run for the 1988 presidential election. What theme do you want your campaign to hold? Building forward together. The Cold War is coming to an end, and the next president will be the one to deal with diplomacy between the West and now open East. I've been laser focused on international affairs as a senator. If elected, I'll keep NATO strong while still holding out our hand to our old adversaries to make a better world. Voice of America. We need to hit at the heart of the Americans, the economy. You may hear the president talk about how great it is, but what about in 10, 15, or 30 years in the future? American people are asking, what's in it for me? Folks, let's get an economy that feels good to talk about and feels good in your pocketbook. No malarkey. The American people are tired of being lied to by the government. Trust in this nation's leaders is at an all-time low, and I'm here to give the people a chance to vote for someone they trust. I'm not here to give you prepared speeches that hit at polling like a corporate spokesman. I'm here to solve your problems. Our best days lie ahead. The president and his followers won't stop spouting some hogwash that America has hit a peak, and that all remaining issues are nothing more than microscopic compared to his achievements. But as I've traveled around the country, I've seen that we still have millions stuck in the mud. Who's fighting for them? This is the best answer. You'll get a bunch more poor turnout. Running a platform for the downtrodden today, low-income voters and minorities flock to you in large numbers, and many now see this as a campaign for the people. You have seen a large rise in the polls. September 12th, 1987. The New York Times and the Des Moines, whatever, Register have both released articles accusing you of plagiarizing a speech by British Labour leader Neil Kinnock about generational differences. This has caused you to plummet in the polls, and many fear you're in danger of falling behind Dukakis and Jeppert. How do you respond? Low malarkey. While at first it seriously hurts you, if it isn't the end at all, as only around a month later it comes out that Dukakis' aide, including his chief of staff John Sasso, were the ones who recorded and released the video. Despite everything, this may actually propel you further. Right now we have a comfortable lead, but we need to hold on to this. Specifically, the states we need to hold on to are California. We can pick that one up in a second. Ohio and Jersey. These ones play the biggest roles in this election specifically. So I'm campaigning California. After a long and hard fight, your final two opponents, Dick Jeppert and Jesse Jackson, have dropped out of the primary, making you the de facto Democratic nominee. Will your acceptance speech be at the DNC in Atlanta? Instead of attacking them, we need to unite the party. We're going to go all out on the attack on Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, as they've completely degraded this country to its lowest form. Reaganomics has this country in a chokehold that won't release it if we elect George H.W. Bush and Dan Quayle to the Oval Office. I'm incredibly proud to be the nominee for the Democratic Party, now in the same league as Roosevelt, Truman, Kennedy, and Johnson. I want to use this as a chance to unite the party after such a tough primary, looking back at our history and forward to our future as the party of the people from rural Montana to New York City. We all have common ideas and policies that built this country in the first place, but we must use them to walk forward together. Totally didn't almost just fall after a cough. Interesting move to talk far more about the Democrats rather than attacking Bush or Reagan, although positivity is always good, I suppose. You've chosen Representative Dick Jeppert as your running mate. Why did you choose him, and why do you believe he's equipped for the difficulties of the vice president? Dick Jeppert has been a wonderful man that I've had the fortune of getting to know over the last year. Much like me, he is anti-malarkey, which has made him a great voice of reason within the House of Representatives. Everyone loves Dick, from the Republicans to the labor unions. You know, he almost beat us out there. He was winning, and I was shocked at us all, given how it seemed good for me. But he's kept going. He's got a lot of energy. I'm sure that combined, we can easily outrun Bush. Jeppert and you dominated the ground game in the primaries, so this could be a winning strategy. We now have California. This gives us an even more comfortable lead. However, I want to hold on to California. After such a divisive primary that exacerbated differences in wings of the party, how do you plan to bring supporters of Jackson, Dukakis, and Gore into the fold? Look, I get it. You support your guy like hell, only for him to not reach the finish line. I promise you, we're going to bring everyone into the fold. As evidenced by my running mate, this campaign cares about the opinions of all Democrats, from the conservative wing to the liberal wing. Your voices will be heard. Obviously, liberal ideas are important, but I'm more focused on moderates and independents who could very well split to Bush if we associate with people like Jesse Jackson and Michael Dukakis. These moderates love Reagan for some reason. There's no way we're going to win them instead of Bush. The only way to fight back is to make a shift to the left and court the liberals whose turnout we depend on at this point. We support universal health care, defunding the military, and tax raises for the rich. Look, Fat, this is our campaign, and the fact we won by a decently large margin by the end means that we shouldn't have to concede things for the people who didn't do as well. When you lose, and that's something those guys have to realize. We need to unite the party. This is a good attempt at getting your rivals to begrudgingly accept their loss and unite against George Bush. For nearly 8 years now, America has been under Reaganomics. You, as well as most Democrats, have been a consistent critic of this policy. What is your specific opinion on the current economic policy, and what would you change as president? I've got a lot on my malarkey list, and Reaganomics is high up there. It screwed over your average Joe for the rich guys, and all the while President Reagan has said tax cuts for the big guys are going to pay off for you. Well, it's been 8 years, and that ain't happened yet. We need to make sure every American is helped, not just the ones who are already winning. If I was a man, we actually support Reaganomics, although I'd probably rename it to Bionomics, truthfully. It's been very good for the economy, so yeah, I'd keep it. Under Reagan and Bush, your wages have fallen to pathetic levels. If we keep this path, the middle class will completely collapse because of the economic policies. We need administration that's not afraid to reach out for the cause of the common people. We should go about a different route here. We're going to focus on the personality battle between me and Bush. He looks uncomfortable doing basic things, while we've got the people cheering for us just walking down the street. Larky list. Definitely heavy on the rhetoric without the meat, but given Reaganomics is fairly popular, that may be a good thing. But you better have some actual policy, because riling the crowds ain't enough. We lost Ohio. We can lose Ohio if we have California. I'm going to go back to Ohio. As the GOP finishes their convention in New Orleans, Vice President Bush has unsurprisingly became the nominee. However, the choice of Indiana Senator Dan Quayle for the Republican Vice President nominee was shocking. How will you attack that running mate? Who gives a crap about Dan Quayle? We're here to focus on the actual issues here. No one cares about Quayle unless we bring him up. So let's just keep attacking Bush and the policy of the Reagan administration. We'll obviously make some attacks on Quayle for the rest of our advertisements, but we don't really need to focus so hard on one thing. I'd personally thank the Vice President for picking the best running mate to absolutely destroy with attack ads. I seriously can't believe they found someone more gaffe-prone than me. The ads roll out showing Quayle's greatest gaffes. Sure, it may be hypocritical, but they work like a charm, and the Bush campaign is wounded. In advance of the upcoming presidential debate, what region of the United States do you want to visit in the next week? Look, I know it's someone like this, but we're going to Dixie. They say no Democrat since Jimmy Carter can win the South, but I call malarkey. Let's go from Georgia to Louisiana. The Midwest. These folks in the Midwest are showing us great numbers, so we've got to make sure they don't even think about voting Bush. I'm the candidate for the working class. I'm the only one for president that actually has to work my way here. Farm crisis, Iowa. Let's hit the West Coast hard. The Midwest. We need to pick up Ohio. Make large stops in Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and Ohio. And the tour is almost infectious with excited crowds in Iowa that are angered with the Reagan admin's foreign policies. All the way to the labor unions in Ohio. The only bad part of the trip is when we get into a verbal fight with a factory worker. 335. He still holds, not much actually. We have a pretty comfortable lead. We just need to hold this. Well, Joe, the first 1988 presidential debate is upon us. A lot could be riding on your performance tonight. So how are you feeling? Okay. Middle, I guess. My God, you've gone and completely trounced the vice president. Over 70% of viewers are calling you for the winner of this debate, and this has been a major boost for your campaign. Recently, members of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party have criticized you for your support of the 1983 invasion of Grenada, with some saying that on foreign policy that you're the same as Reagan and Bush. How will you respond? Yes, with the evidence. Suppose sticking up to your beliefs. Okay. That'll hurt us just a little bit. Not too bad, though. General election. How will you balance attacking the Bush campaign? Let's run ads comparing me and George Bush. These ads play well, while Lee Atwater and the Bush campaign run advertisements on your plagiarism scandal that seem to be worn off a bit. Both Michigan and Ohio are likely key states to the Biden win come November, and their vote will most likely overwhelmingly come down to trade policy. You've been fairly moderate on trade since the start of the campaign, so what message will you push for the voters in these states? Let's keep the middle ground here. Between all this talk, protectionism and free trade, you know what I like? Fair trade. Both sides meet the obligations, everyone feels better in the end. Look, Fat, we're going to free that market so hard you won't be able to recognize it. I don't increase trade with everyone from Canada to Chinese. I don't give a damn about the Midwest. We make it up for it by thriving everywhere else. You ever heard of William Henry Harrison? He tried to win over the most votes possible by saying different things depending on where he was. And we can't let him know we love free trade in the West and such, but let's show ourselves as protectionists in the Midwest. We're going to go all out protectionists. We need to win these states at all costs. We know We all know about the solid South, but let me introduce you to the solid Midwest. Fair trade. Fairly obvious balancing act, but probably for the best, given you need to win states from all over the country. The only people truly excited about this answer are hardcore moderates. Okay, that'll push us over the edge again. We could cop New Jersey, but I don't feel like it right now. The Bush campaign has repeatedly called you a liberal in advertisements and speeches, using it as a dirty word against your record. How are you going to respond to this? Liberal. Lincoln was a liberal. FDR was a liberal. Kennedy, Truman, Johnson were all called liberals. You know what? I'm proud to be a dirty liberal because no matter how much you pretend it's a bad thing to call, it won't stop the fact nearly every great man in our history was a damn liberal. Liberal this, consider that. I don't give a damn, folks. I entered this race as someone who could bring together people like Jesse Jackson and Sam Nunn in the one campaign. I'm not here to be president of the Democrats or president of the Republicans. I'm here to be president of the United States. The advisor probably right this time. Just deflect. Never ever claimed to be a liberal throughout my career. I've been a proud moderate since day one in political life, and I deplore this grievous slander. Okay, President of the United States. The two-party system is more popular than ever, so this appeal, while corny to some, does actually hit a note with most independents who are otherwise just wouldn't have voted. Some of the liberal wing is pissed that you won't defend them, though. October 1st, 1988. Your campaign has received an invitation to the vice presidential debate between Dick Shepard and Dan Quayle, set for the 5th. Will you accept this invitation? Sure. Quayle was just more on the ball than most expected, and while Shepard was still performing well, it's not a victory for the history books. We might be able to pick up Texas. Recently, the Bush is accused of being opportunistic with courting black voters due to the fact you opposed busing back in the 70s. What do you have to say in response to these claims? All about goddamn Lee Atwater. Only he could distort truth so hard that it squeezed like a tower. Let's fire the cans right back at them. Talk about the Sun strategy and how it completely abandoned all black voters in exchange for white ones. This is a distortion of the truth. I only opposed busing back then because it was going to be used against de facto segregation, while I supported it against de jure segregation. This is another example of the Bush campaign using dirty tricks on me. If we keep our mouths shut in this, it's not going to end up swaying the average black voter. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Bush, then you ain't black. We'll do this one. I guess that one. Best you can do in your tricky situation. Black voters are satisfied you haven't pissed anyone off. The ads will still hurt you a bit, though. More recently in the campaign, there's been a storm of talk about the abortion issue, and if abortions should be federally funded. Senator Biden, what do you think? You know what? These things, women have every right to decide for themselves, and regardless of where you stand on this issue. If we don't federally support the practice, all it will do is force these women into far more dangers. Depends on where the money goes and all that jazz. Needed some circumstances. Didn't make a solid stance here. I mean, managed to lose nor gain any voters. Hey, now we have Texas. We have a weak Ohio. We can afford to lose Ohio for Texas. Since the late 70s, the upper Midwest has been enveloped in a major farm crisis that as many felt that Reagan administration has failed to relieve. We'll hold a Biden administration due to aid these farmers. International scale exports, simply give me an answer. Put legislation right smack down in the middle of the Senate and force the GOP to show farmers how much they care. Right after we'll have the Iowa, South Dakota, and Montana speak to farmers unions. We'll change it. We have intervened. People feed our nation. Okay. Interesting. He worked with a young senator from South Dakota, Tom Daschle, to send out the Biden-Daschle Farm Relief Bill. And just this plan is brought down by Republicans, hurting them immensely. Once again, the plagiarism scandal has been brought to national attention, as new accusations from the Bush campaign claim not only have you plagiarized speeches, but you've lied about your youth activism. Further, some have even gone as far as saying you nearly failed college. How will you respond? The answer to this isn't to address this, hit it back. Let's put on Bush and run around contra every little scandal he's ever found himself in. I go on live TV and squash this for all. Okay, one of these two answers. You've always been at your best when emotional. You roll right over the allegation without preparing it for more than an hour. Managed to come out of this interview intact. Yes, I got the luck. We lost Texas, but we have a stronger Ohio. And overall, we've gotten more votes. If we can pick up Texas, that would mean we would basically have a clean sweep. As always, gun control is a contentious issue nationwide, with the remaining Southern Democrats staunchly opposed. However, some have begun to favor gun control in light of rising crime rates. What position will your campaign take? We aren't going to take your hunting weapons or handguns, but we do need to prevent assault rifles being easily available at the corner store. This is common sense, folks. Writing legislation, stopping legal. A good answer if you want to make gun control more digestible for the average American. The Iran-Contra affair clouded and nearly destroyed the political capital of the Reagan administration in 1986. While largely faded, it is still a sore spot for George Bush. How will you attack his involvement in the scandal? I think the Iran-Contra deal was based. To be honest, I've always hated Nicaragua. I hate to say this, but given President Reagan's approval, I really don't think this will do more than involve us in a needless battle we're going to lose. So you're telling me the president was saying one of the most heinous lies ever told to the American people and the vice president didn't know? Yeah, I think this says two things about this administration. We're going to cover every little detail about the scandal, as already been said, and we're going to blast them to hell with our attack ads. That's a good old Biden charm right there. Both Bush and Reagan give separate yet equally embarrassed rebuttals that only leave you laughing. Now we have a strong lead over Bush, but I'm not going to completely bank on this for now. We've reached the final presidential debate, and here's the first question. Senator Biden, if Joe Biden were murdered, would you support the death penalty for the person who did it? Far too soft on these criminals. Eliminate crime. This one. Yes. No. No. That one. Yes, sir, President Ironheart. Despite the constant malarkey from the vice president, I feel like we won. American people seem to agree that you defeated Bush in the debate, but while it wasn't a shocking debate overall, there was a good moment where he told the vice president to shut up when he was interrupting you, which gave the crowd a good laugh. Okay, Texas is swapped. Not too bad. The election is drawing near, and as you campaign through California, you feel a headache come on. No, this isn't a headache. You remember all too well what this is. Shit. Seems the stress of the election has finally caught up to you. You've suffered a brain aneurysm and have been forced to go into surgery again. Ooh. Ohio is about to swap. And it's late October, and you've finally recovered enough to manage the campaign from the hospital beds. Bad news has come from recent polls, which show many voters apprehensive about voting for you due to your health issues. How will you show the people you can still lead? I'm just going to leave everything to Jill and Kaufman. I don't feel well enough to talk right now. I'll just let them decide what to do. Let's get Dick out there and show they can lead if I was unable to. Let's get everyone from Michael Dukakis to Jimmy Carter on the phone and tell them no matter where they are, what they're doing, to organize as many Democrats as they physically can within the next week and a half. I need people to see that from a hospital bed I can still bring half the nation to the polls. The Grand March shows going until November, and even if you were aiming for those who are undecided, you managed to hype up the Democrats at levels unseen since JFK. Now we have a comfortable lead. We might be able to hold on to there. Delaware, New Jersey. Did we get Texas? No, we should went to Texas, but we still won. You've done it. You've won the election, and it was quite an impressive win, huh? Vice President Bush had already called you and given his concession speech, and you could hardly listen to him as the realization that you actually won the race set in. Get your cabinet ready and call some old friends, because come January, you'll be the President of the United States. As for legislation, Democrats have easily taken Congress, and will surely give your agenda a major push. As you give your victory speech, you feel the weight of the world finally released from your shoulders, eased with the fact you finally become president. Godspeed, Joe Biden. Actual results show we did better. However, we could have easily picked up Texas if we just went there, but we had a stronger lead in New Jersey. Close election. Oh, well, pretty good. Not bad. I just opened something else anyway. That's funny. Anyways, good night or something.